In collaboration with Professor Cliver, I wanted to make this video today to tell you guys a couple tips and tricks with your new TI NSpire Calculator. The most important of which is going to be a way to use the calculator that you might not have thought of before to make the most out of solving equations and advanced math using a method that makes it a little bit more intuitive to go about doing so. You could use the calculate and the graph function, but we're going to do something a little bit different that we think makes a little bit more sense for the kind of work that we do. Before I show you guys, or I go into depth about this method, we're going to cover a couple different basics about this calculator. The most important of which is this screen right here. When I hit home, it's always going to take me to this screen no matter what. So if you get too far down a path that you don't understand, or you're lost and you just want to start your document over, like something didn't work right, and you just say, okay, I want to start over. You can hit the screen. You can always start over using these options. The method we're going to focus on today is not using calculate or graph. It's going to be using documents. So I want to show you what I mean by that. Now that you've seen this page and you're oriented, I can use the software to make things a little bit clearer so you guys can see what buttons I'm pressing on my calculator. So as mentioned, we're not use calculate or graph, we're going to use the documents function. I'm going to click new. It's going to make a new document. It's going to ask me what I want to add, and I'm going to say notes, not calculator or graph. I want to add notes. Okay, so now you see this blank screen. How do we add math to it? Well, you could just type. When we make it, I could say x equals 5, but nothing's going to happen. Why? Because this is just text. If I want to actually add an equation, I have to go over here, hit Control M, and that's going to create this little square. Anything you type inside this little square is treated as math / an equation instead of text. So as an example, I'm just going to go ahead and assign a variable, x, and then if I want to make it equal something, I have to do Control and this button right here because of that symbol, colon equals. Okay, x colon equals, we'll say 5. I hit enter, and then the green number right next to it is sort of like an equals, and it tells me that I've made x equal 5. So now if I just type x and hit enter, it's going to reflect that. Okay, so now I'm going to create a couple other variables to kind of show you the practical use of this. For this one, I'm going to use the variable y, Control equals, and we'll make it 10. Why not? All right, y now equals 10. Now, what if I want to make variable z, and this variable will equal x plus y? Well, since x is 5 and y is 10, we should see 15 as the result, and we certainly do. Now, one thing that you'll find is whenever you update your variable anywhere on the page, you can expect it to change that variable's value anywhere else. And what do I mean by this? Well, I'll show you. If I go right here to this x, and I make it equals 8, keep in mind, it equals 5 right now. If I change it to equal 8, then this value gets updated to 8 as well. And that's reflected here too. So instead of 15, now it's 18. Anywhere on the page that you update that basic value, it is going to affect it anywhere else, whether it's up or down the page. Now that I've shown you the basics of variables, you might find yourself wanting to add a different page because you've done a lot of equations on this page and it's getting a little bit cluttered. So I'll show you how to do that. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click Doc, and that's going to show this menu right here. I'm going to go to Insert, and you're going to see two different options here, Problem and Page. There is actually a difference here. So when I add a page, every variable that I've already assigned on this document the value of that will carry over. And if you've ever used MATLAB, think of it like your workspace. And each workspace is carried between every 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, which is every new page that you create. So let's look at this in practice. For 1.2, I'm going to add notes, same thing as before. Get my Control M, my math window going, and just as an example, type X and hit enter. Boom, X is still 8 because that's what we assigned it over here. So I'll assign something else for you as well. M colon equals, we will say X plus Z. Before I do anything, I'll check. X is 8, Z is 18, which means we should see a value of about 26. And there we go. When you add a problem, every new problem is like creating a different workspace. So I'll make a new problem and I'll add notes to demonstrate. You see now it's 2.1 instead of 1.3. And if I do Control M and I try to type X like before, X is just X because it doesn't have a value yet. So we can go ahead and assign it a new one. 4. Perfect. Now X has 4. And then in problem 1, X has 8. All right, I'm going to take it back to problem 1 real quick because I want to show you another trick. You see, when you are working on problems and you want to remove a value from a variable, it's not as simple as just erasing colon equals 8 because X is still 8. So how do you remove a value from a variable? Well, you use a command called delvar, which is short for delete variable. So I'll type delvar space, and then I want to remove X. So I'll type X. Boom. It says done. X no longer has a value, and this just becomes X plus 10. So now that I have done that, I actually can just remove that line because we've removed the value from X. That doesn't need to be there anymore. And I can say X is 6, whatever. And there you go. That's reflected here and here. All right. So for this demonstration, I'm going to actually remove this line, and I'm going to remove X and Y. So now 10 is just 10. I'm going to go ahead and remove everything on this page. Sorry, I had to jump cut because I tried to do a value, but it was assigned in this page. So I went ahead and removed M because I need to demonstrate a new equation. Okay, so for this example, we're going to do M times X plus B, which is a formula I'm sure everyone's familiar with. It's the slope formula. And because we removed X's value, you can see right here that X is simply X. So if you wanted to, and you wanted to change this value, all you would have to do is X colon equals, make it a value you want, and that will be reflected in your equation. So those are the basics of equations. I'm going to show you a couple other little tips and tricks, and then we'll wrap up. So there's a couple different ways you could sort through your pages. If you like using the touchpad on your calculator, I find it personally hard to use. I can click between all the different pages up at the top, or I can click the arrows. But there is an easier way, and that easier way is if you hold Control and you use the arrow key, you can see that symbol actually right here. Control and the arrow keys allows you to move between pages, and this also works on the calculator keypad. Everything I'm doing in this keypad here, you should be able to do with your calculator buttons as well. It's also worth noting, because I don't think I have mentioned it, is if you wanted to add a note to your math problem here, as a reminder, anything you type in this box right here is part of the math problem. So if I type 4 plus 5, becomes 9. But if you find yourself wanting to add a comment on a line, all you have to do is get out of that box. And you can usually do this by hitting the arrow key. So I could just type comment. It's treated like a note. It's not added at all. So you could say like sum of 4 plus 5. And then that will just stay there. That will always be a comment for that line. Okay, so what if you have an equation already typed out, but you want to visualize it? Now I know at the beginning I said we're not going to be using any of the graphs, but what you actually can do, if you still want a graph to demonstrate something in a problem that you've created, is there is a page graph as well, and I'm going to show you how to add that. Control I is the same thing as insert. So what we're going to do is add a graph. You can see it's already added as a second page. Since we already have x defined as 9 here, so I'm just going to show you what happens when I plug 9 into this graph. And there it is. Here's the line at 9. So up until this point, I've shown you how to add a bunch of different problems and pages. But what if you find yourself needing to delete a page because, I don't know, it's too messy, or your graph is messed up? At this point, you probably really can't. Oh, well, you can adjust that here by double clicking on this label. But okay, you don't need this page anymore. How do I get rid of it? So the way you do that is by clicking Control on your keypad or holding it and pushing the up arrow. And here you go. You can see your document sorted by problems and then pages. So what you can do is, if I want to get rid of this graph, I can hit the delete button right here. Boom. Graph is gone. I double click on the page I want to look at, and it will take me back down to that page. Okay, so now let's pretend we have a saved finished file that we want to demonstrate. We want to save it to our calculator and then show it in class later, or if you're a student, revisit it later. This is part of your homework, and you don't want to lose all your work. You'll find that this feature works largely like a computer does. If I hit Control, hold, or press, and I click S, it's going to ask me where I want to save it. So I'll just name my particular file demonstration. I don't know. You can name it whatever you want. File, you save that. You got your file name typed in. You can save it in My Documents. So the file is now saved. I can close it. The file is now closed. If I want to revisit it, I can hit 2 on the keypad or just click 2. And you'll see right here, demonstration, double click, boom, right back where I left off. But if you have the software that I'm in right now, the CXCast2 software, or you want to take a file that somebody has shared with you and you want to put it on your own calculator and play around with it yourself, but you might not have this software, you'll find that there are a couple different ways you can actually put files on your calculator from your computer. And I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that now. Okay, so one of the two ways to do that, which I think is going to be the more common way, is by using a web app provided by TI called the CX2 Connect. Now, it's worth noting that this application only works on Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge, so if you use anything else, you're going to have to download them. So no Firefox, no Safari. Because of a special utility that Chrome uses, which is called, I believe, Web Serial, and it uses that to connect to your calculator and transfer information to it. All right, so my NSpire is already connected with a USB cable, but to connect to yours, you're going to need a USB Mini B cable, or just use the cable that came with your calculator. I'm going to click Connect. It's going to ask me to connect to the handheld. I'm going to click Connect. I had the software open earlier still. You can't have the software and this web app open at the same time. I'll click Connect. Okay, and here is the screen that I'm presented with. Now, since I'm not entirely sure where that demonstration file saved, I'm going to transfer a file that I already have on my calculator to my computer, and then I'll send it back, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. But a couple other things you could do with this software is pretty neat. If you want to take a screenshot because you're putting together a Word document demonstration for a PDF, whatever it is you're doing, you can take a screenshot of your calculator using this utility. So I have a blank scratchpad open on my calculator right now. I'm going to click capture screen. Boom. Click it. There you go. That's what's on my calculator right now. Okay. Now we're going to try transferring a file. All right. So first, I'm going to pull a file from my calculator. This should look pretty familiar. This is the same documents page you would see on your calculator. As an example, I'm going to go ahead and pull this document here, Z phasors. You have two options. You can send it to a link to Google Drive, but for this demonstration, I'm going to just pull it to my computer. Okay. There you go. All right. Now if I open my files, here we go. NSpire, and there is the file that I just saved. Okay. Now I'm going to send a file back to the calculator. I'm going to click back, send it to my calculator. Going to choose a file from my computer. And if I saw that correctly, I believe the files are saved right here. Yes, there we go. So I'll send my demonstration file over to my calculator. There you go. You see on my calculator right here, it says document received. And it asks me if I want to open it. So I'm going to say yes. And there you go. The file that I just made on my computer is now on my calculator. Now I'm going to show you the other way to do this. Okay, there we go. Yep, my NSpire software is back open. And if I want to transfer files to and from my calculator in this software, I could go up here. This little icon right here, this is the folder, and it will show me the directory on my calculator. Here's my calculator right here. I double click it, and now you can see everything on my calculator. If I want to send a file to and from my directory, I click it, and I'm going to drag it over here. Now you can see it's on my desktop. I open it, and there you go. Here's some of my work from a previous class. It's just that simple though. And then if I want to send it back, same thing, click and drag, and I'm just going to replace it, just as an example. A little bit simpler than the online software. However, not everyone is going to have access to this program. The license will come with your calculator, but it's still good to know about the web app regardless. In case you don't have access to your calculator because you bought it used, or you lost the code, or it's already been a year and your trial license is expired. Whatever the case, it's good to know about both. Okay, so that is pretty much the basics of the NSpire, and the use case in which we, including myself and Professor Cliver, use it. So all that's left to do is demonstrate a couple other equations, and then I'll go ahead and wrap up. So I'm going to use insert to put in a new problem. And you know what? I'm feeling a Pythagorean theorem here. So let's go ahead and add a new note and solve one out really quick. Pythagorean theorem says a squared plus b squared. And we're just going to leave that right now because we don't have a c squared. But we're going to go ahead and assign an a and a b. So we'll say a is 4. So now this is 16. and we'll say that b is 7. All right, so now we have a and b, a squared plus b squared up top here equals 65. And if I'm making this as a demonstration for a class, which we won't be, we're doing a lot more advanced stuff these days, I can go ahead and click out of my math box here and start typing that out. So I'll say, okay, I've typed out the Pythagorean theorem as a comment, but now I want to go ahead and actually solve for c. So what I can do is take this value and just square root it by using Control and the square root button. I just type 65. Now, when I initially typed this out and hit enter, it just gave me the same answer. But if you want it to approximate, you can hit menu, 1 for actions, and then 2 for approximate. And now you can see it's giving me a decimal value. So 8.06 would be the third side to this triangle. So this is one way that you could make use of this functionality. And of course, if you really wanted to go digging, there's many different symbols that you can add into your documents. And you would access those by this button, which shows you all of your fraction. Oh, you can't see this button right here shows you all of your fractions. This one just adds a basic fraction. Then there's all of these as well, like square root, cube root, and other value roots. There's just regular square root here, natural logarithm, regular logarithm, scientific notation for 10 to the x power. And then this button right here, which looks like a book, this is actually your journal for all of the different symbols that you can add into your document, including but not limited to degrees. There's integrals. There's really a lot of different symbols that you can add into your documents, and they all should work in this math function that I'm showing you guys today. So this is something you would have to play around with, but it's something you can make really great use of for math demonstrations and solving math equations in your classes. And moving forward, our hope is that this will be made greater use of. It can be an excellent learning tool inside the classroom. So to wrap up, I've shown you how to make this demonstration file. I've shown you how to add math functions and variables and equations to your different notes. I've showed you how to add graphs and other pages as needed if they will help you visualize the data that you're putting in, which would be Control I. You can add a page and add whatever will help you here. In our case was graphs. And I've shown you how to save and transfer documents between this calculator and your computer. Whether you want to upload it to My Courses to be used as a learning aid, or you just want to take pictures of your screen and insert them into learning documents. The possibilities are really endless here. So if any questions come up, please feel free to reach out, and I hope that you found this video particularly useful. And thank you for watching.